Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm here. So I decided to do an end of year thoughts, end of year, summary of how I've seen the world of boxing in 2015. Let me do this and make sure that we're on and we're up and we're working. Let me just do this, check again. Let's see. Yep. See. Yep. The sound's not good. Just trying to get this sound better because the sound isn't good at the moment, which is not a good sign. See. Yep. The sound's not good. Thank you, mate. How's the sound now? Is it any better? Great. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. You know who I am, and thank you so much for choosing to join me for the New Year's Eve. There's lots to talk about, so much to talk about. Welcoming Rob Reynolds in the room. Welcoming Michael Redmond. Michael, you in early, which is good. This will only be for half an hour. I'm sure people have got other plans than just to stick around and listen to me yab on for half an hour, but here we go. The review of 2015. Before I start my own rant and rave of 2015, I want to say a big thank you to all the people in the world of boxing, whether it be promoters, managers, TV stations. So we're talking Sky, Box Nation, Channel 5, Showtime, HBO, Spike TV, all the networks that are showing boxing. So happy New Year, bro. EJ Boxing Live. How you doing, Aaron? I hope you're well. Yeah, so just a thank you to all those people that make those things possible, so we're able to watch boxing. And we are not in the Stone Age where we were back in the day where we were listening to it on the radio. I remember back in the day listening to boxing on the radio, listening to Bruno fight Tyson. And at that time, that was all I could do, listen to it on the radio. And then you used to see it the next day, Grandstand on BBC One. Thank God we don't have that anymore. And we have the beauty of being able to watch boxing. You can obviously go live, always go live and watch fights, but you have the beauty now to be able to sit down and watch boxing bouts and, you know, through your TV set and watch it. And, you know, I know a lot of people have a lot of things to say about Al Heyman, but hey, there's been a lot of fights this year that have been around that this year that we've been able to see because of Al Heyman that probably wouldn't have been able to be seen. However, you know, some fighters have been inactive because of this as well, but neither here nor there. I'm kind of happy for that. So the second thing is that thank you as well to all those people across the YouTube community, EJ Boxing Live and iFilm TV, or IFL, sorry, IFL, to James and to Coogan for the great work that they're doing. Not everybody likes IFL, but, you know, they do their work. They do some great stuff. And you kind of wonder if they weren't doing the coverage that they were, we wouldn't get some of the insights that we get. So great work, guys. Keep it up. Marcus Music, hello. Hello, Mike Tyson. So, you know, really grateful for things like that. And other stations, obviously EJ, I get EJ Boxing Live, the great stuff that he does, not just the boxing in the UK, and they are covering a lot of world boxing. Yeah, supply and demand indeed. You know, Hatman TV, Hatman always doing the stuff that he does. There's a host of people, and I don't want to miss anybody out. Wingy Boxing, Boxing Wave, Boxing Gossip. Gosh, the list goes on and on and on. I've seen Iron Islands, what Irish boxing. I could go on and on and on and on and on. And if I miss you out, I apologize because I haven't got a list in front of me. But to all those people across the YouTube community, all of you that are making great content and people able to sit down and watch boxing, you're never short of boxing and boxing information. Boxing forums such as Boxing Socialist, shout out to them, big shout out to them. Boxing News 24, shout out to them as well. Let me think. Boxing Scene, there's been stuff there on Boxing Scene, World Boxing News, Boxing News and Views. Let me think what else. The Irish Boxing, of course. Yeah, and so many other publications and forums. It's great, and I'm just so happy that we've got such an overflowing amount of boxing content that's out there. I think what also has happened is, I guess, that some stations will get less views because other stations are getting more, and I guess that's been a debate as to saturation. Is too many channels opening up a good thing or a bad thing? You know, is that a good? Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know, but you know, 2016 should more done to stop people like Eddie Hearn monopolizing the sport. We'll get into that. We'll definitely get into that. So yeah, I just want to say the thank you to all those people, and a thank you to all those fighters that have risked themselves and put themselves in the ring so we can sit on our fat behinds and point fingers and criticize and say you should have done this, or to trainers or to promoters. Thank you to fighters, because without the fighters we wouldn't have any boxing, you know. So thank you for that. So all those things, thank you for, and I'm really thankful for those things. And thank you, appreciate it as well. And thank you to those people who have supported BaylorIC TV, the boxing channel. I think when I think in the beginning of 2015, I had a slight problem with my channel. I uploaded a video, and it was I didn't monetize it, or maybe I was monetized accidentally. I didn't mean to, because you get the default where you just monetize everything, and that came up. And so then I had to start a new channel, and that new channel had about 150, 200 subscribers on it. No, it's like a dead channel, really. And now at the end of the year, we're close to 900 subscribers for BaylorIC TV channel, which is a separate channel. And kind of gone pretty gung-ho in it, and we've got some good interviews on there. So yeah, I'm going big in the new year, mate. Gonna focus on interviews for the ropes. Me and Jenna got a new strategy. All the best, and I hope you all the best with that as well. Team D, hi, how are we doing? So we've so you know, that's been a good thing. I think another good thing is there's been less trolling in 2015. I think it's kind of leveled out. You've got people who seem to be a little more constructive in their comments. You get the odd one or two idiots, but generally it's been pretty good. So that's been a positive for 2015. Okay, so I've done all my thank yous and my. Let's move on. Let's move this show on. I think the first thing that comes to mind was the big fight, Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. For years, debate who would win, who was this, who was that, who was the better fighter. You know, a lot of and I'll tell you something, that Pacquiao Mayweather thing, the amount of racism and nasty comments that were being passed between the Pacquiao fans and the Mayweather fans, it was just a free for all for any racist to slip in between and just almost divide and conquer sort of thing. And the end result. I mean, I remember going back and doing a video, and I remember boxing fans, they're less informed. We're talking about how Manny Pacquiao's hand speed and how he was throwing loads of punches in thin air and he was doing the stuff. And I said, look, that's not going to happen when he fights Mayweather, because Mayweather's not going to stand in front of him. He's not a stationary target. He's going to move. He's going to move. He's going to hit and not get hit. I mean, and people were kind of expecting some sort of fireworks. You know, we had the world's media, but we had, like, which was pretty disappointing at that point for such a super fight as it was billed. Many people said it should have happened 5 years ago. I kind of agree with you. But then again, I don't think they would have had the profiles that they had when this fight happened. Sponsorship and corporate business getting involved, I thought that that had a detrimental effect to the actual press conference. It was very dry. And one of the things what really annoyed me was when we were doing the coverage, when the coverage for the fight was on itself, you had people talking that weren't boxing fans talking about the fight. It was like, you know, this random basketball guy, this NFL guy, and like the real people, the real experts of boxing, very few of them were being spoken to on the night of the actual fight, which was pretty annoying. The fight itself, well, you know, Mayweather won, and I'm kind of glad that that's kind of that phase is over. Sad thing about it, Manny Pacquiao and the shoulder injury. Well, if you had a shoulder injury, should you have fought? The excuses kind of take off the shine of what Mayweather did. Those things were pretty annoying as well. But what I thought would have happened because of Mayweather and Pacquiao, what we would have now got was more big fights happening, and it kind of seemed that that was going to happen. So that is, you know, that's been good, I think, because you can say to yourself, well, look, if Mayweather-Pacquiao can be made, then there's no excuse whatsoever why no other fight in the world can't be made. If these two guys who've got bigger profiles than any other person in the sport of boxing, if that can be made, then there's no excuses why no other fighter shouldn't get together and fight. Simple. So that was that, and I thought that was going to be a turning point in boxing, and fights like Brook and Khan would have happened or been made. Stevenson and Kovalev would have definitely been made, but yet still we're still talking about these two fights to happen. Lomachenko and what's this gentleman's name again? Rigondeaux. Thought that fight was gonna happen. There was talks about it happening, didn't happen. So there were some fights that were made, which was good. And for those fights that were made, another thing, I felt there was, I don't know, I can't tell you that there were many great fights in 2015. There were good fights in 2015. Great fights? I don't know. There were some good fights. Mind you, I've got to say that this year I haven't been as up to my boxing as I could have been. There were some very good fights. There was one Matchroom card in particular I watched that a lot of the fights were quite competitive. Very few of those Matchroom card fights were competitive, but there's one or two, and I can't remember which one it was. I think it was an Asian guy. They were both from, I think, up north way. They were fighting, and it was a back and forth between these two guys fighting. Really good fight. I can't remember the name of the guys, and I please hope that somebody can come in and help me out there. But that was a really good fight for a British standard. It was really good. Freddie Roach was funny after the fight when he said he thought Pacquiao won. Yeah, Evander Holyfield said the same thing too, which was quite funny. Could you discuss the up and coming heavyweights? Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's get into it. Well, I guess we've got to start with Joshua and Whyte. You know, I still think that fight came too soon for Dillian Whyte, in my opinion. I had said that. I think, for me, Joshua is a good fighter. He's got the Olympic pedigree. I'm still not convinced in his trainer. personal opinion, not convinced his trailer. I think one of the mistakes made in boxing is that fighters will go with a fighter and a trainer until they get knocked out. And when they get knocked out, then they want to repair things, as opposed to getting themselves aligned with a very good trainer, the proven track record. And for me, I kind of feel Joshua, if there's any criticism of him, is that there's this feeling that is he going to be Frank Bruno Part 2 or 2.0, the improved version, or is he going to be as James Ali-Bashir often tells me, a George Foreman? Question is, can he take it? Well, he took it from Dillian Whyte. That was a very good fight. Unbeaten, two guys getting in. Again, we don't know how good Dillian Whyte is. We know that Joshua took his best punches. In the second round, people still question, well, you know, a better fighter, if a better fighter pushed it there, could Joshua have been stopped there? People ask the question. It didn't happen. Joshua got through it, and he stopped Dillian Whyte. I think Peter Fury said it. James Ali-Bashir said it, that they felt that Dillian Whyte didn't come in the best of shape, and the back foot policy of trying to fight Joshua instead of getting forward to him. I think going forward on the back foot. Joshua said, yes, Dillian Whyte did say shoulder pops, but I will say this as well. I said about Dillian Whyte's injury problems that he's had in the build-up to his fight with Joshua, and that was another reason why I felt that it wasn't right for Whyte to fight Joshua then. I think that maybe, you know, next year would have been a better chance of Whyte winning the fight. So, but it's still a great fight. Joseph Parker's up and coming. He definitely is doing the business at the moment. Want to see how he does against a real name opponent, like you see how Joshua fought. Like Joshua fought Dillian Whyte. You saw him get rocked and come back and win a fight. I'd like to see Joseph Parker in that sort of situation. You know, I'd like to see him against a guy that we all sort of know and think, yeah, okay, like a Joseph Parker versus Derek Chisora, or a Joseph Parker versus Chris Arreola, something like that. Now, where we can kind of get an idea of where Joseph Parker really is, but he's definitely talented. Let's see, we've got Glazkov and Charles Martin. Charles Martin, we don't know much about him, and Glazkov, we know that he has got some serious backers behind him. And when I say serious backers, if you can fight Malik Scott, I thought Malik Scott beat him, but then you fight Steve Cunningham, and I know he got beat by Steve Cunningham, but yet Glazkov still gets the nod. And now Glasgow's in a position to fight for the IBF. You know what? Charles Martin's going to have to knock Glazkov out, or I suspect that Glazkov will get the IBF title. I don't rate Glazkov. Charles Martin, again, I don't know how good he is. But I guess if Charles Martin can beat Glazkov, it gives you a better idea of where things are. Deontay Wilder this year, you know, in terms of developing Deontay Wilder's career, I can understand what they're doing, allowing him to go rounds, allowing him to get an element of opposition, but not too much of an element that ruins the apple cart. So the money keeps coming in, his face keeps getting seen. But the 3 voluntary defenses, you know, 1 voluntary defense, okay. 2 voluntary defenses, okay. 3 voluntary defenses? No, I don't know of any other world champion that I know had 3 voluntary defenses without facing a mandatory. Yeah, he's going to fight Povetkin. He's got to get past Spilka first, which I think he'll get past Spilka, to be honest. Unless he walks into something crazy. I think he knocks Spilka out. And he probably knocks Spilka out pretty early as well. I think that the Povetkin fight, if Deontay Wilder can follow the blueprints of how Klitschko fought Povetkin, and remember, Wilder's more aggressive than Klitschko. The only thing is with this fight is if Povetkin lands, if Povetkin can land, and how does Wilder respond to that? That's my only concern. But I think Wilder being more aggressive, he may walk onto something, but in the same sense, he may get Povetkin out of there real quickly because Klitschko was able to drop him, hurt him, and against big men, I'm not sure about Povetkin. It's okay against Vac, but we'll have to see what Wilder does. I think if Wilder gets rid of Povetkin, it'll make a statement in his career. Who else we've got? We've got Dave Allen, stop-start. He had I think 2 fights in 2015. It'd be nice to see him kick on 2016. Let's see who else we've got to talk about in the heavyweight division. Who have I missed out at the moment? Then you've got the guys that are all around. You've got guys like Steve Cunningham, Malik Scott, Charles Mansour. You've got what's his name? Dominic Brinzel, I can't remember his name. Brizell, I think it is. He's fighting Mansour. That's gonna be a good fight because one thing we know is that Brizell and Mansour can punch. So if Brizell hasn't got a good chin, then he may get found out. But I think Brizell may well beat Mansour. It's going to depend on whether Mansour can be outboxed, but he'll keep coming and he's got power. So interesting. Lucas Brown. Okay, Lucas Brown is, for me, he's a nice guy, Lucas Brown. I think his fight against Rudenko showed the limitations of Lucas Brown. Hughie Fury, let me not forget him, boxed circles around Rudenko, and I believe in my mind Hughie Fury in 2016 becomes a world champion. I believe he's got the pedigree, I believe he's got the boxing skills, and I believe it's only a matter of time before Hughie Fury actually goes on and becomes world champion. If I was going to make a guess, I believe he'll go down the IBF route. I think the IBF route will probably be easier to get a world title shot at the IBF than the WBA. You've got Luis Ortiz around there. And I think today Hufu could beat Glasgow and Charles Martin, to be honest. So, yeah, King Kong, dangerous. I heard stories about Brian. I don't know how true these stories are. Jennings had 2 weeks preparation for the fight against King Kong. Now, I haven't spoken to Brian Jennings myself personally, but this is something I heard through a pretty reliable source. And but that's neither here nor there. King Kong did a great job, and King Kong was at the cold, and he still put on a performance like that. How he does against a big puncher is yet to be seen. I would like to see what would happen at Stavern for King Kong. I think that'd been a good fight. Stavern has got proper heavyweight power there, and I mean a rehydrated Stavern, not that Stavern that turned up against Wilder. Feel sorry for Price. Both defeats were against juice fighters. Yes, David Price. Well, Peter Fury put it quite bluntly. He says, despite the juice fighters, I still got chinned. And I think that, okay, let's put things in perspective. David Price got completely slammed and destroyed because he got beat by Tony Thompson. But if I'm right, at the time, Tony Thompson was ranked number 2 or number 3 in the world. So that was a big step up for Price. If you look at what Price had been fighting, Matt Skelton, Audley Harrison, Michael Sprott, that was a big step up. So for Price to even make that step up, technically flawed, we know now, and everyone's, but I was one of those guys who believed that Price had as big a punch as anybody in the heavyweight division, had the amateur pedigree, fought in the Olympics and the World Championships. I thought that it would have been a good fight. But the rematch, I don't think Price should have taken the rematch automatically. A lot of experts, if you go back and listen to a lot of experts, whether it be on Box Nation or you listen to people who are saying, "Oh yeah, I think Price should get straight back in there." Even the great Lennox Lewis didn't get straight back in there. I think Price should have had a couple of fights, he should have been taken away from that situation. I don't even know how healthy Frank Maloney, now Kelly Maloney, psychologically, how much effect that had or damage it had into Price. If you are someone of a nervous disposition, if your manager is of a nervous disposition, or your promoter is of a nervous disposition, and you yourself are slightly shaky in terms of mental strength, that's not a good combination. So looking back on that situation there, in terms of now today, even if David Price, and they wipe off the 2 defeats of Price's record, okay, or the 3 defeats, including the Tepper fight, they wipe all those defeats off, he's still scarred. And that's a scarred fighter getting back in the ring. And a lot of people have said it, well, Price will get back in the ring and he'll knock a few guys over, get his confidence together, and then fight somebody decent and then get destroyed. That's what a lot of people are saying. And I think, after interviewing Tommy Brooks this year, he said to me, you know what? I gave Pricey certain things to do. He went against what I told him to do. And when I told him to do this, this, and this, Price went and did completely the opposite. So, I don't know. Now, if you want to compare David Price with Vladimir Klitschko, in terms of Vladimir Klitschko, before he went on that 10-year run, was, you know, knocked out, and people were saying, oh, well, you know, Klitschko's career is over. Then he had that 11-year run. There is no Emmanuel Stewart today to give Klitschko Price that defensive style, but he needs to be with a trainer that understands defense. If Price can get a coach that teaches defense, and he's got a coach that he would listen to, and, you know, Price can get his head right, he could still be a force in the heavyweight division. Whether he does is another matter altogether. And the thing is, if he was to do it, why didn't he do it back then? But then you would say hindsight is a wonderful thing. Maybe now the timeout has given him time to clear his head and get it right. Derek Chisora. Derek Chisora. What can we say? Since he's made the move and since he got beat by Fury, to me, not been convinced of Chisora. I think one statement he made on IFL TV, he said, you know, I'm in it for the money. So I think the soul of Derek Chisora has I think, went the night he fought Tyson Fury. I think he's going to now go and fight Helenius again. Helenius is fresher than Chisora, and he hasn't looked that impressive, but Chisora's looked terrible. He has. I mean, he's looked terrible, honestly. And I don't know if his trainer now is with that camp because, you know, it suits his agenda in terms of he tells the trainer what he's doing. He runs, you know, I don't know. I don't know. But from what I've seen of Derek, I'm not really been impressed with him, to be honest. So, yeah. I'll tell you another fighter that it's just kind of fallen off the radar in terms of British boxing, Ian Lewison. I'd like to see what's going on with him. Yeah, you know, you say Warren had enough of Chisora, but I want to go back just for a second with that whole Chisora thing. And I mentioned it before. Warren could have got rid of Chisora way back when he could have got rid of him. Let me think. After the Fury fight, he could have got rid of him after the Klitschko fight. He could have got rid of him after the Haye fight. Mike Tyson says, it's all good changing the records afterwards, but juiced up fighters shouldn't be allowed to get back in the ring in the first place. This is very true. This is very true. This is one thing I hope for 2016. But, and I do want to say a but here, and a big but. These fighters coming out with PEDs. Now, there's two ways we can do this. And a lot of people are going to say, no, you're crazy. I think that every fighter is either allowed to do PEDs. And listen to this and hear me carefully when I say this. I believe there are fighters in the world today that are on performance enhanced drugs, but they are high flyers. They're making a lot of money and they're paying these government organizations. And I believe that because they're the high flyers, they're bringing in the money and paying a certain amount of money, and of who they are exempt from certain tests. That's what I believe. So while they're exempt and still cheating, you've got the other fighters down below who probably have a sniff of this, hear this, understand this, and think, you know what? If they can do it, I'm going to try and do it because I want to better my career. I don't want, you know, to be fighting a guy that's PED'd. I might as well be PED'd as well. That could be one way of thinking it. The other way of thinking about it is the fact that everybody gets screened the same way. I don't believe it's going to happen because that you'll still have that disparity. But at least if everyone's on the PEDs, so you know what? 2016, floodgates open. All of you get on PEDs. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. Everybody knows everyone's on PEDs. So there you go. Then there's going nobody's going to have any sort of advantage there. Do you get what I'm saying? Nobody gets an advantage. So nobody's got an advantage. So they can't be that guy's a cheat. That guy's a cheat. You're all cheats. Or you're all, then you would be cheating because you all are using, you're all on PEDs. But then I guess when we get to that point, what goes next? Do we start getting people with bionic arms and stuff? I don't know, because once everyone's got the drugs there, then somebody's always going to try and find the next thing. If it's not drugs, then what else can you do? I mean, if you want to talk about 2015, we had Glovegate, we had Canvasgate. You know, those two situations in itself, Vladimir Klitschko, the whole legacy thing. Let's go back and look at when Vladimir knocked out Pulev. I thought that was a brilliant performance. One of the best knockouts of the year. But ask yourself this question, just a moment. Vitaly Klitschko for Orlando Solis, that fight was basically the end of his career. Twisted his ankle, never been the same fighter since. Makes you wonder. Klitschko decides to go and fight Pulev. Pulev, in all of his other fights, he's giving you in and out movement. Fights Klitschko, and he's stuck in cement. Feet not moving anywhere. Stationary target. Klitschko's bouncing around. Just a thought. Was that canvas as well the same way as it would have been for the Fury fight? Because, hear this, if that canvas was spongy, and that saps the strength out of you, your legs, but then that early in a fight, I don't know. Just something to think about. And now that the Fury camp, that happened, does that ask more questions of Vladimir's career? The canvas thing got exposed, right? The glove thing got exposed. We kind of saw this was all gonna, the canvas thing we didn't expect, the glove thing we did expect. And the ring walk and Vitaly being in the dressing room, all that stuff and the hand wraps, we kind of accepted that. But the canvas thing, we didn't. Now, when you've got a guy that said, okay, this canvas is okay, and they didn't challenge that, the fight between Fury and Klitschko could have been very different. We wouldn't have known the wiser. We wouldn't be none the wiser. But now we are the wiser. The legacy of Klitschko surely must be questioned. If somebody's prepared to make themselves the same height as you're 6'7", the other guy's 6'9", you suddenly become 6'9" as well by putting stuff in your, or 6'6", Klitschko is. So he goes what, 3 inches at a weigh-in? What? You know, the things that Vladimir did to me, I don't see how people can say this guy is an honest guy. I think he's pretty dishonest, to be honest. And that's an element of cheating. That's cheating to me. That's cheating. If you want to say PEDs, fine, but that's another form of cheating as well. Oh no, but it's Vladimir Klitschko. He's a top guy, top guy. But the evidence is there. Think what you want of it. So where are we at? Review of 2015. Uh, George Groves. Let's talk about George Groves. He's now gets beat by Badou Jack. I've said it before and I'll say it again. George Groves, if boxing was only 6 rounds, he'd be a world champion. George Groves, I said in my pre-fight to his fight with Jack, where it was saying, oh yeah, George Groves will beat Jack easy. I'm like, really? Guy's got stamina problems. This guy, George Groves, you know, he believes himself is better than he actually is. And I don't believe George Groves absorbs punishment well. And I just felt that Badou Jack down the stretch would have been able to, George Groves was tired, as he does, and he's not as effective down the stretch. And I just think to myself, you know what? Overhyped. His career up to the point of before he beat James DeGale, I felt he beat James DeGale on point. I thought James DeGale beat him on points, in my opinion. So I felt they gave that to Groves because Groves was the more popular guy. Despite the fact that it was James DeGale, if it wasn't for James DeGale and him mouthing off at Sky and all the rest of it, that fight would never have made anything because you can't expect George Groves himself to sell a fight. So, so Groves gets that win, even though I didn't think it was a win, and probably the best fighter on his record. And then after that, gets a big fight with Carl Froch, which I didn't think he deserved anyway. Said that Froch would come from behind and knock him out, stopped him. And that first fight where he was stopped and was controversially stopped, if you look at the second fight, Froch knocked him out. And if you go and look at the Badou Jack fight, even in the Badou Jack fight, when Groves was getting tired and was getting hurt, the same thing, turning his back, does the same thing. Anytime he gets hurt, he starts getting put on top of him, Groves does the same things. So he's got a new trainer. He's now going to go to Shane McGuigan. But I don't think, there's some things I just don't think you change. I think his best decision for him now to move up to light heavyweight. I think if it's a stamina problem, as I say, he's cutting a lot of weight, move up to light heavyweight, challenge someone like Jürgen Bremer. I don't know, but I don't think he's going to be a force in the super middleweight division, in my opinion. And I'm not quite sure how the Shane McGuigan thing works. Maybe he's following David Haye because they want that sort of common, the good buddies again, and they can vibe off one another. I don't know, but delusion is delusion, and I don't know if David Haye's that deluded. I don't know yet, but I know that George Groves is totally deluded, and I think he needs to be aware. And I've heard rumors as well that he was, training camp, he was in control of training camp. And if you're in control of training camp and you're the one who's dictating training camp, then you can't be going very far. And I will say the same thing about Vladimir Klitschko. When you are the boss of your training camp, we talk about Jonathan Banks and Vladimir Klitschko there, when you're the boss of your training camp, there's a problem. And you saw the fight, I mentioned this about the Jonathan Banks Klitschko relationship, that it's been okay so far because Banks just wound Klitschko up and Klitschko's just gone out and done the business. But I said there'll come a time where he'll have to do more than just wind Klitschko up and let him go out there. And that happened against Tyson Fury. And you saw in the corner where Banks was talking to Klitschko and Klitschko couldn't listen. You know why he couldn't listen? In my opinion, it's because he was his own trainer. So when you're your own trainer and you're sitting in the corner and your trainer's talking to you, you in your mind know, I know what I'm going to do to do the fight. I know what I'm going to, in my mind, I know what I'm going to do. So for me, despite the fact, obviously Fury was boxing and causing a lot of problems and causing a lot of the problems, Klitschko himself probably malfunctioned in the corner in terms that he was the coach. Where somebody like James Ali Bashir, an experienced coach, and I thought, for me, Klitschko's skills have been eroding through the years, have been eroding. He's been getting worse as a fighter. People think he's been getting better. I would disagree. Let's see these comments that are here. Got a few comments in here. Marcus Music says, Vlad should retire. I think he's going to get KO'd in rematch versus Tyson. I do believe that. There's too much young blood on the scene now. Two, he has lost our awe of invincibility. I agree with you. Marcus Music says, Klitschko, failure, not an option, but trying to cheat to win is. I'd say failure and getting caught in cheating is something. Tindy says Groves aged a lot after both Roch losses. Indeed, true, he did. Mike Tyson says the James Aguirre rematch is a big fight for next year. Big fight in whose eyes? I don't think it's a big fight. This guy's lost 2, 3 world title attempts, right? He's just almost as bad as Martin Murray, but that's another. We'll talk about Martin Murray in a minute. Remind me of Martin Murray, by the way. I've got some stuff to say about Martin Murray, his trainer, and Adam Booth, but remind me, please. What about Haye? Can he challenge for a title, or are Tyson and Wilder too big for him? You know, I hope David Haye adds something to his game in 2016. I hope he's not going to try and be the same haymaker, trying to land one big shot and knock someone out, because I don't think it's going to work. I'd actually like to see David Haye use a jab. I'd like to see David use a jab, get inside, throw shots, and get out. I'd like to see him do that. But at 35, can he make those technical adjustments? And the other thing is, David Haye with these big guys now, is he getting prepared to get in, possibly take a shot, and get out? Is he getting prepared to get in the pocket and land the shots? That's the question with David Haye. He didn't want to do it against Klitschko, and that was prime David Haye. So I can't see how post David Haye. And you know, David Haye, there are a lot of people around David that view David Haye as this guy that, you know, he can't get old. People are still thinking about David Haye, you know, when he was cruiserweight champion, or David Haye when he, you know, first won a heavyweight title. This David Haye, 35 years old. We don't know if he's got any slower. And of course, he wasn't technically great. David Haye has relied speed, power, movement. When you get older, those things you used to do before, you're getting caught with shots that you wouldn't normally get caught with, a la Roy Jones Jr. So David Haye, I don't know. Marcus Music says, when Groves loses again, he won't be able to blame his trainer. All trainers cannot be wrong. If they cannot get the best out of him, last chance saloon for Mr. Groves, I reckon. No, that's true. Ingram, Habib says, Ingram, we all know you have inside everything. Who is Fury stepping up against? The way Peter was talking, I'm expecting a big name. I'm expecting a big name as well. He said it since this year. He's been saying it. That February, there are going to be 2 eliminators. He's going to fight for eliminator in February, and then fight for another eliminator in on the undercard of Fury Klitschko 2. So 2 eliminators. So I guess it might be 1 eliminator for WBA and 1 eliminator for the IBF. That's what it seems like. Is Haye purely a money whore, or does he really want to unify the division? I think David Haye's always liked money. You can't knock him for that. You know what? I wouldn't back him in a life and death struggle in a heavyweight division. I really wouldn't. And I've always suspected. Now, this ain't true. This is my opinion. And I've always thought that Haye got knocked out in sparring by Wilder. I've always believed that around that time where he was meant to fight Fury. I think he got knocked out in sparring. I think his confidence went. And I think he took some time out. And maybe his belief systems were seriously rocked. I don't know how true it is. I could be talking garbage, but something happened. Something happened for those 3 years. The other thing that was mentioned about the possibility that David Haye himself could be on the PEDs. I mean, the way his body blows back up and goes down and goes back up. But then, you know, you can't go around accusing people of PEDs. But, you know, maybe you want to get out of the system and then come back again. I don't know. What I do know is we can't only go on what the man's done previously. And for what the man's done previously, cruiserweight champion, heavyweight champion. I like one thing about David Haye. He's not going around saying he's the undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world. He's now saying he's the unified cruiserweight champion of the world. Maybe some of that delusion is knocking off, wearing off. I don't know. I see AJ, Hearn setting a fight between AJ and Haye. I can see that, definitely. Fury might fight Wilder. Oh, yeah, I think that'll happen. Haye wants the Joshua payday. That's why he's come back. I think that's pretty obvious. It was built as a big fight, like Bellew cleverly too that's what I meant. George Groves. I don't know how people can sell George Groves DeGale too. I don't. DeGale's just he's beat Durrell and he's beat Butte. Groves has lost to Froch and he's lost to Badou Jack. Badou Jack was meant to be considered an average super middleweight by him, and Carl Froch, according to many people, was well past his sell-by date. Ben Lowe comes. He says, "Good evening, Ben." He says, "To be fair, Martin Murray could have won 3 of his attempts with different judges." Let me tell you something about Martin Murray. I blame Oliver Harrison for Martin Murray not being world champion today. And let me explain one thing. That fight against Arthur Abraham, I heard him say things in the corner like, "Mess Arthur Abraham around." You need to have a concrete game plan before you leave the UK to fight in Germany. Stuff like mess Arthur Abraham around is not a game plan. And I believe if you looked at the Paul Smith fight, the first fight, there was a blueprint there how to beat Arthur Abraham. Even though he didn't get the scores, didn't get it on the scorecard, the body shots work into the body. There was not hardly any of that. Martin Murray has the ability. I just don't think his trainer is up to task, in my opinion. And I think Martin Murray, after he lost like the 3rd world title shot, he should have changed trainers, in my opinion. So I don't think Arthur Harrison has done Martin Murray any favors. That's my opinion. I could be wrong about that. Feed Habib says, "No offense to McGregor, but what can he offer Groves and Haye? He's still a kid and seems to be more of a fitness trainer than a boxing mind." You've said it there. I say no more. Which leads me on to Carl Frampton and the MBE. Remind me of that as well. Robin Reynolds says Hugh Fury was offered Wilder fight at short notice. He was indeed. It'd be a good fight, even if Huey is 100%. I think it's a good fight. I think Huey's got a better jab than Wilder. I think Hugh's got better boxing ability than Wilder, but Wilder has that big punch, which makes him very dangerous. Marky B says, "Big up IJ." Yes, Marky, how you doing? Marky says, "Nobody hits harder than life." Indeed. Ben Lowe says, "Apart from GGG, he hits harder than life." Marky Bay says, no man hits harder than life, nobody at all. Robin Reynolds says, "Somebody online is calling Billy Joe a coward for saying he would not take the GGG fight. What's your opinion on that?" Listen, Billy Joe Saunders, and I like Billy. I really do like Billy Joe Saunders. And I'm gonna let me talk about Billy Joe Saunders, the Andy Lee fight first. I want to talk about Andy Lee. Let me talk about Adam Booth, the myth of Adam Booth. And I'm sure Booth's a nice guy and everything, he's more of an established trainer than I am. But if you want to talk about the world's best trainers and who should go to Adam Booth's fighters, you look at them, the successful ones, big punches, good move, good head movement, or good body movement, good reflexes, and fight from the sniper. They're in and out. Adam Booth fighters cannot fight. Do not fight well on the inside, and you look at Adam Booth's instructions. Look at his instructions against Andy Lee. Good example for Andy Lee. Andy Lee versus Billy Joe Saunders. Let's look at that fight for 1 second. When a guy is a world champion and he's fighting in world class, and then you've got a guy that's coming through the door and saying he wants to step into world class. For all the time I've watched boxing, You welcome, Lennox Lewis was pretty good at it. You welcome the guy that is coming up or saying he wants to fight at world class. You welcome him early. I was expecting Andy Lee to hold the center of the ring and hit Billy Joe Saunders early, hard, let him know he's in a fight. But it seemed Andy Lee, I can't there see Andy Lee trying to box with Billy Joe Saunders. What was the game plan? This is Adam Booth, remember. Adam Booth again, another fighter. Mike Perez versus Brian Jennings. Tells Mike Perez to calm down. Yeah, Mike Perez is behind on the scorecard. Do I have to give any more examples of Adam Booth? So Adam Booth lost Andy Lee that world title fight, in my opinion. Lost Andy Lee that world title fight because he had Andy Lee trying to box with Billy Joe Saunders rather than trying to get him to brawl with Billy Joe Saunders and take him and test that stamina early and see whether he ties in the second half of the fight. But he didn't do that. As for the thing about Billy Joe Saunders being called a coward, you know what? A lot of these people calling Billy Joe Saunders a coward. How many of them guys would step in the ring with Gennady Golovkin? Just take David Lemieux, who's fought more names than Billy Joe Saunders on a world level. He gets the title against he wins the title against the Dam. He gets the title against the Dam, and then he doesn't even get a voluntary defense. He goes straight into the fight with Gennady Golovkin. He's no longer champion, which is absolutely absurd. So what does it prove? Oh, I fought Gennady Golovkin, and I got knocked out by Gennady Golovkin, and you know what? I'm not a champion no more. No, milk it. Milk it. Make some defenses of the world title. Establish yourself as a world champion. And then maybe 2 years down the line, go and fight Gennady Golovkin. Gennady Golovkin's not like a bum or some guy that, you know, you got half a chance. Gennady Golovkin is a very good fighter. How good? Still don't know how good he is. But he's good enough to be whooping the guys he's fighting at the moment. Me, if I'm Billy Joe Saunders, you can call me coward, call me what you want. I'm not going to the ring with Gennady Golovkin yet. There are other guys. I can have a rematch with Lee. I can get a rematch with Eubank and get paid more money for it. Well, I could go and fight Danny Jacobs. I could fight Peter Quillin. I could fight Miguel Cotto. I could fight Canelo. Why do I need to fight GGG? The most brutal puncher in the division. Why? Why? A coward? All those people calling him a coward. Let me see how many of those guys calling Billy Joe Saunders a coward will step in the ring and fight would fight either Billy Joe Saunders or fight Gennady Golovkin. Just saying. Saunders asking for silly money. If GGG's team calls his bluff, he's in for a shock. Yep. Yep. 78 said it. Marky B says, do you think Andy Lee's chin is suspect? I think when you're a big puncher, you leave yourself more exposed to get because you're more worried about landing your own than worried about your own defense. Andy Lee, to his credit, has been hit by some of the biggest punches in the world, and he's got up. So suspect. Now his powers of recuperation are pretty good as well. Suspect, no. I think his defense is suspect. That's what I would say. His defense is suspect. If he's got a decent chin, I think his defense is suspect. How do I think Billy Joe Saunders will fare against Canelo? I don't think Canelo's great, to be honest. I don't think Canelo's great. I think Canelo's pretty straight up and down, and he gets a lot of credit because of his looks and the fact that he's with Oscar De La Hoya and they're trying to get Canelo in to be the next Oscar De La Hoya. That's all it is for me. Canelo's not a great fighter. Tell me something that's great about Canelo. Tell me something great. Tell me a great fight Canelo's been in. I saw he beat up a small guy, a welterweight, playing to be trying to be a middleweight. So what? He beat up what's his name? The other guy. He beat up. He definitely had no chin. What's his name? I can't remember the guy again. Chinned him in a couple of rounds. Yeah, Canelo. Rob Reynolds says Adam made his name from Haye. Haye was a great cruiserweight. Great cruiserweight? Great cruiserweight? Now you're stretching it. He was a good cruiserweight. I think Evander Holyfield was a great cruiserweight. Great cruiserweight? What made him great? He beat Enzo Maccarinelli. Was he a great fighter? He beat John McCormick. He was a good fighter. McCormick wasn't great. Great? I don't know. I don't know. I think there were some great fighters in Holyfield's day. I don't think Haye was great. Let me see. If David Haye was around, and let's put a few other guys in the mix, like I'm just for argument's sake. We'll put Steve Cunningham. He never fought Steve Cunningham. Let's add Johnny Nelson into the mix. Let's add James Toney into the mix, cruiserweight. Let's add, let's think, Usyk into the mix. Let's make Marco Huck into the mix. All those guys that are around. All those guys that are around. Let's kind of add them into the cruiserweight division and then put Haye in there. How would he have done? Evander Holyfield into that mix? How would Haye have done? Dwight Quarry, put him into the mix as well. Dwight Quarry, put him in as well. And put David Haye into that mix there. To call him great. To call something great, there's got to be greatness around you. I'm not so sure. Well, you could have said Hagler, Hearns, Leonard, you know, Duran, because they all had greatness around them. I'm not sure the cruiserweight division that Haye was in had that greatness around him. So, good, great. No, I'm not sure. Billy isn't a puncher. Addy May looked like GGG. Well, don't know about that. Like I said, Marky, when you're a puncher, you're looking to land your own shots. So you're leading. So you're leaning in, and then the impact of their punch, speed times strength equals power. You're leaning in. They've thrown their shot. That maximizes on it. So it was a damn good shot that Lee got caught with. Remember, Lee was overextending. If I remember, Saunders ducked under and threw a left hook. It was a good shot. Very good shot. Any news on which TV broadcast is showing the Haye fight? Yes, Gunnar. You think we're going to win the league? I don't know. They're selling it as David Haye's a good man. He's a really good man. He's letting you see it on TV. No, he's not. If David Haye could have got it on Sky Sports, it'd be on Sky Sports. I suspect that whoever the broadcast is saying, look, David, you're gonna have to get some trust back. So wherever you go, wherever you box, 2 or 3 fights, and then we'll get you back on. Something isn't right. What isn't right, Marky? Explain. Which division is weak? 135, 160 total. Lack of top fighters in the division of the most historic division. Which division is weaker, 135 or 160 total? Lack of top fighters in 2 of the most historic divisions. Well, the 160 pounds. I think if certain fighters moved up, like if Andrade moved up, and what's the other guy's name? Lara moved up to the 160 pounds. I think that becomes an interesting division. I think it becomes a very interesting division. As for 135 pound, I think a lot of those 135 pound fighters are moving up to 140. That's where the money is, isn't it? Is Eubank Jr. being hyped up? Simple answer is look at the last name. If Eubank Jr. didn't have the last name, Eubank, we wouldn't really be talking about him. But I thought he fought very well against Spike O'Sullivan. And when I did my preview to the fight with Spike O'Sullivan versus Chris Eubank Jr., I said if Spike O'Sullivan comes in with straight lines against Chris Eubank Jr., then he's going to get found out. Is Ben and Eubank 3 still on? Ben looked amazing on the mix with Hatton. I think Ben would destroy Eubank now. That fight should have happened years ago. Such a shame. Ben Eubank 3. Well, it depends what weight this fight's going to be at. If Ben was at, I don't know. Eubank looked. Remember, Eubank fought as high up as cruiserweight. Ben, I don't know, super middle. I mean, he wasn't. He was never the biggest super middle. Eubank was always an easy, made super middle easy, and he went light heavy. He went and fought a cruiserweight, and he's got the power at cruiserweight as well. Depends on where the fight is made. Ben looks phenomenal. Ben looks phenomenal. Ben said it would never happen, but Eubank said it could happen. Eubank's a very difficult man, I assume, to do business with. But I know a lot of people criticize Eubank for being difficult, but he is a fighter, and he knows a lot of promoters try to rip fighters off. So I guess Eubank is just looking after his son's interests. So there's nothing wrong with that. I think when Ben decides to manage his son, and it'd be interesting to see whether Nigel Benn is considered a difficult man to deal with. Be interesting. I think there'd be a great fight. Eubank Ben 3. I think there's bad feelings still there. I think it'd be a great fight. Let's talk about this one. Ike Ibuchi. Now, I've always loved the president. I had this conversation with James Ali Bashir the other day. What could Ike Ibuchi do in 2016? There's talk about Ike Ibuchi fighting Andy Ruiz by Bob Arum. Why would you put Ike Ibuchi, who's been in prison for God knows how many years, he's come out of prison, and he's going to go and fight Andy Ruiz, an up-and-coming heavyweight. I forgot to talk about Andy Ruiz. Nice hand speed, good power, nice movement. Why would you do that? I've seen criticism of Joshua's trainers. Do you think AJ should ditch Tony Sims? And if so, who would the best person train him? There's only one person that can train him for me. AJ should go to James Ali Bashir. You've got a guy there that's been around since the days of Muhammad Ali. Okay? You've got 40 years of plus experience. He knows heavyweight boxing. He's worked with Vitaly, Vladimir Klitschko, Lennox Lewis. He's been around great fighters. Mark yourself and put yourself around greatness. Go to James Ali Bashir. That's what I say. But mark my words, this is what happens. Joshua comes unstuck before he becomes world champion, comes unstuck, gets knocked out, and then decides to look around for a trainer then. That's what happens. Would you bet the same in person as he is off camera? He seems quite unique. Look, I've known the Eubanks when I used to box myself. Eubank used to regularly come down the gym because I lived in Hove, and I used to his son. I used to know his son very well. He used to be in Hove Park, come and play kicking football around the Hove Park. So I remember going for my runs in the morning. I'd be running, do my runs from Hove down to Brighton Marina, right down to the bottom, up and down the steps of my trainer Paul. And I'd often see Eubank, and he was all right. He was cool then, but since his son, has got into boxing, his behaviour was changed somewhat. Don't know, his behaviour, his demeanour's changed. See, now I met Ronnie and I met Eubank the same time at the press conference, at the weigh-in for Eubank Jr. versus Billy Joe Saunders. And I met Ronnie, and Ronnie said, "How you doing? I haven't seen you for years." Because he knew his trainer and my trainer were very close. And Ronnie would come in and watch me train at times. And, Ronnie was just the other day meeting Ronnie. Meeting Eubank was like I never knew him. So I remember Junior and seeing Junior. He was cool. He was very respectful, nice enough guy. And he very much, his character is to sell. It's promotional. It's promotional. Pure promotion. A good shout with Bashir training Joshua, and yes, he comes unstuck. He's a KO waiting to happen. Hi Ingram, Mr. Mets 85. Hi Ingram, tuning in late. How do you think Spinks versus Holyfield would have gone? I've just found out that Spinks had bad knees due to jogging in army boots. Your thoughts? I think it's a great fight. I've always wondered how that fight would go. I would go with Holyfield. I would go with Holyfield because of what Holyfield accomplished as a cruiserweight and what he accomplished as a heavyweight. And he beat Mike Tyson, first and foremost. And I believe contrary to what a lot of people believe, I believe that Holyfield would have beaten Tyson at any time and any era that Ike Tyson was around. Because Tyson, regardless of whether he was Customado, whether he was with Kevin Rooney, whoever Tyson was with, Tyson only had one way of fighting, which was come forward. So I don't think he would hit any harder against Holyfield. I think the one thing is experience. Holyfield went and fought Bo. I think, but then he still was able to stand in front of Bo. I think Holyfield would have pushed Tyson back, and he would have beaten Mike Tyson. I still believe that. But I think timing is everything. Timing is everything with Holyfield and Tyson. I still believe Holyfield would have beaten Tyson. So on that basis, I believe that Holyfield would beat Spinks. That's that basis, I think. How do I see Fury Vlad going rematch going? Right, I'm going to give you an insight here, and I want you boxing fans to think about this. I think that the Klitschko camp is in crisis. They are in crisis. I don't think Jonathan Banks, in my personal opinion, how can Jonathan Banks be a head trainer for Vladimir Klitschko when you've got James Bashir as the assistant trainer who's had over 40 years experience? I don't get it. I don't understand it. Doesn't make any sense. Like, just pick sense from nonsense. Okay, so what? Bashir brought Banks into the Klitschko camp. Banks was brought in as a sparring partner for Klitschko, and Emmanuel Stewart didn't want Banks in the corner in the first place. So Banks was being forced on Emmanuel Stewart and Klitschko originally, and managed to say no. He said, in the end, managed to said, okay, you want Banks so much? Well, you know what? Banks is going to have to be in the same bedroom as you because I'm not paying for Banks. So Bashir brought Banks in, and that's how Banks got in. Banks was with James Ali Bashir since the 15th, since he was 15 years old. So how can you're 15 years old? How can the guy that brought you in, 15 years old, your mentor, your senior, not have more knowledge than you? Don't get that. Don't make no sense to me. So, and this is what's happened here. Klitschko's going to want to have to make changes, but he's the one who's agreed to have Banks in the first place. So short term, it looked great. Long term, it's eroded his skills. He hasn't got better as a fighter. He's done the same things over and over and over and over and over again. And as Roy Jones said, muscle memory. When you're in close, what do? You hold. So he's got worse and worse and worse and worse. So what you've got a situation is, and I'm going to say it before anybody else says it. If I were James Ali Bashir, I wouldn't touch Klitschko with a barge pole. I would not touch Klitschko with a barge pole. And here's my reason why. If James Ali Bashir decides to train Klitschko now, he's doing damage limitation. What is James Ali Bashir going to give Klitschko now that's going to help him in the rematch against Fury? If Klitschko could have 3 or 4 fights and he wasn't 40 years old, 3 or 4 fights, and then fight Fury, we may see a different fight. But you've got age, you've got a control freak in Klitschko, you've got a guy that has fought the same way all his career, now having to take chances, and is anti Klitschko style. Take chances. Can't do that. Take chances mean there's a possibility, you'll get knocked out. So Klitschko's going to have to come into this rematch taking chances. And his only chance is to knock Fury out. It's apparent he cannot outbox Fury. 8 rounds to 4. Can't outbox Fury. So he's got to knock Fury out, which means he's going to have to take chances. And by him taking chances, you leave yourself open to getting knocked out. You've got one guy in Fury who I believe will only get better, and he doesn't have to make that many adjustments. Think about it. He doesn't. 8 rounds to 4 proves he's the superior boxer. You've got a guy here, Klitschko's going to make a lot of adjustments, and he's going to get ridiculed And if the fight's in the UK, you've heard it here. If the fight's in the UK, and I hope to God that is in the UK, because I don't believe in this rematch with so much money on the table. And believe me, there's more money on the table in the rematch than there is the original fight. Trust me on this. More money. I don't believe that they're going to allow Fury to walk out of Germany with the belt a second time round. No, 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 no. Money talks. So Fury's going to have to knock Klitschko out in Germany. They'll have to knock him out this time. So I think the fight needs to happen in the UK and not in Germany. I hope, yeah, I hope it's in Wembley, and I hope it's yeah, I hope it's at Wembley, or it's in the UK. I do hope that, but it's not in Germany. So there's a crisis, and I've said to James earlier, if you take on that job as becoming head coach, because Klitschko's gonna restructure a few things. If he decides to restructure Klitschko and appoint James Ali Bashir as his head coach, Bashir will get it. Because if Klitschko loses and gets knocked out, they say, Bashir. It's Bashir's fault Klitschko got knocked out. So you've got Klitschko that's lost. You've got Dillian Whyte that's got beat. Strategy, fighting off the back foot instead of going into the front foot against Joshua. And now you've got Banks, who's rumored to be training Cecilia Breakers. They say things come in threes. I don't see that working out too well. Oh, your Roy Jones comment there. Let's have a look at Roy Jones. Talk about Roy Jones. Yeah, Roy Jones should have hung it up years ago. Story I heard about Roy Jones is that he is in serious debt, and that the Russians have basically got him over in over there, and he's going to do what he can, boxing and whatever, to pay his money, pay the money off. See, Roy made some poor investments, so I understand. I don't know how true this is. He made poor investments, but obviously something's wrong, because you know he's in debt. But whoever did the matchmaking for Roy Jones versus Macronelli, that was like reckless matchmaking. He could have had fights against people that, you know, but maybe, you know, was bringing the most money, and Macronelli probably brought in the best money. I don't know, but it was just terrible, terrible matchmaking. Oh, let's see. Both in prime. Let's see. Did you see Roy Jones getting sparked by Enzo? Do you think 10 years ago it would have been different? Well, 10 years ago, Roy Jones would have been moving a lot more. 10 years ago, Roy Jones would have probably peppered Enzo Macronelli, based on the fact of what Roy Jones did against John Ruiz. But, you know, Enzo Macronelli, one thing is, he's a big puncher. He's a very big puncher. Hasn't got the greatest of chins. I don't know. I couldn't tell. I tell you one thing: if Macronelli caught him 10 years ago, the same thing would have happened. So it doesn't matter whether Macronelli would have caught Jones or not. You know, because if he sat on them ropes, like he does like that against Enzo Macronelli, who's a cruiserweight, not a super middleweight now, a cruiserweight, and you get nailed by a cruiserweight like Macronelli punches, it doesn't bode well for him. Which potential pay-per-view fight next year do you think will flop? Pay-per-view fight that would flop. Timothy Bradley versus Pacquiao 3. I think. I think Timothy Bradley is going to get knocked out in this fight. I think he gets knocked out by Pacquiao in the rematch in this last fight. I predicted the first fight of Timothy Bradley. I said that Timothy Bradley would win the fight by a disputed decision, a controversial decision. By controversial decision. And I got that right. Pacquiao won the rematch. I thought Pacquiao won the first fight anyway. And the third fight, I think Pacquiao knocks out Bradley. And I'll tell you why. That man in the corner, Teddy Atlas. Now, a lot of people are rating Teddy Atlas up. Teddy Atlas is this, and Teddy Atlas is that. And somebody tell me what Teddy Atlas has done and as a trainer in terms of consistency. Teddy Atlas is an ego man. And I believe Teddy Atlas is going to try to make Bradley go out there and knock Pacquiao out. That's what I believe is going to happen. But I believe Pacquiao is going to dismantle Bradley. I mean, he's going to knock Bradley out. I really do. I really do. Box Nation pay-per-view. See, pay-per-view, thanks to Eddie Hearn. Thank you, Eddie, and Sky. There's got to be, I think, in 2016, there's got to be a regulation. What determines a pay-per-view event? Marky B says, I don't think Bradley will get sparked under Atlas. Teddy knows his stuff, does he? Well, does he really? Oh, well, you like Teddy. Okay, fine. But go back and look at history of Teddy Atlas. The amount of fighters Teddy has had and the amount of fighters who've left Teddy Atlas. Shannon Briggs, Michael Mora. The list goes on and on. Go do your history on Teddy Atlas. Pac-Man is way past it. He doesn't have it no more. Let's wait and see, shall we? Let's wait and see. Bradley didn't look great. I don't think he looked great against Rios. He was still getting tagged by Rios, and Rios is no boxer. It's a walking punching bag. That's Rios. What was I talking about? Yeah, thanks to Eddie Hearn, I think that we need to have a regulation, something that says pay-per-view. What determines pay-per-view? What makes pay-per-view? So there needs to be some sort of regulatory body. Prince Patel, another hype machine. Yeah, make Prince Patel versus Charlie Edwards. Make that fight. That'd be good. No, I think there's too much hype with these pay-per-views, and I think there needs to be a regulatory to say, you know what is pay-per-view and what's pay-per-view quality and what's not pay-per-view quality. Even if there's some sort of rating, so fans can decide what's pay-per-view, what isn't pay-per-view. The other thing I want to talk about, gosh, I forgot what I was going to tell you guys as well. Yeah, let's talk a second about Carl Frampton and Tyson Fury and the not so much sports personality, the MBE. Mr. Frampton's got MBE. And while I like Frampton, and why I think he's good for the sport of boxing, and why I think Frampton has got a great draw in Belfast, and he's a likable guy, and he's charismatic. MBE? Really? He's world champion. Okay. So is Tyson Fury. But he's not even the best in his division, Carl Frampton. Tyson Fury just beat the unified champion. And for me, why is Tyson Fury not MBE? Is it because he's a traveler? How did Frampton get that MBE? And here comes my little conspiracy thing. Frampton, it's not about what you do sometimes. It's about who you know. It's not about what you do up front. Sometimes it's about what you do behind closed doors. I don't know what Frampton's connections are behind closed doors. I don't know how many handshakes Frampton's had behind closed doors, and I'm not suggesting anything. He's a good fighter. MBE, really? I understand James DeGale, the Olympics, blah, 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 blah. I get that. Frampton? Is it because Tyson's a traveler? I think things like this need to be brought out and questions need to be asked. Robin Reynolds says, it's the UK monarchy class system. Yep. So I think it's connections with Frampton that's got him the MBE. I would love to be proven wrong, but I think Tyson definitely deserves to have an MBE. Definitely. When Lennox Lewis, let's take you back a second, fans. When Lennox Lewis won the heavyweight championship of the world, if I'm right in my thinking, Lennox Lewis won the gold medal for Canada and not the UK. Never won it for Great Britain. Yet he gets Sports Personality of the Year. How is it that Frampton gets an MBE, Lewis, I'm sure Lennox is MBE or OBE, something like that. How is it Lennox Lewis can get it? But yet, Tyson Fury, unified, potentially undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, because he beat the man that beat the man that beat the man. How comes he doesn't get it? And he's born in Manchester. Question mark. Frampton got that MEE for his high intelligence. Avoiding Rigondeaux is a wise decision. That's very good, Mr. Vets85. I like that. What is your thoughts on Glasgow, Martin? I think the idea of shipping Tyson was a disgrace, but we'll still be interested to see who the new champion is, who champion will be. Glasgow, main events, something to do with that. The only thing is Charles Martin going to roll over? Is Charles Martin actually going to come to fight? That's the question you're going to ask yourself. Pick a winner, first name in your mind. Kenneth Smith Groves, Joshua Haye, Calm Brook, comeback of the year. For me, there's only one comeback of the year, to me, that matters. Anthony Crolla. If you think about the injuries that Crolla had, to come back and not just box again, but to become a world champion. Okay, that guy who he beat to be world champion could say he's probably the worst world champion I've ever seen in my life. I don't know where that world champion came from. He was terrible. It was awful. But Crolla went on, did the business, became world champion. End of. Crolla world champion. That's it. So, comeback of the year, Anthony Crolla. Upset of the year, Tyson Fury, Vladimir Klitschko. Simple reason, because, inverted commas, upset, Tyson Fury beating Vladimir Klitschko upset many people, many racist people, many prejudiced people, many experts upset. I don't think there's been one fight this year that's caused so much upset as Tyson Fury beating Vladimir Klitschko. So, upset, yes. That was the upset of the year for me. So, let's go back to pick a winner, first name in your mind. Callum Smith Groves. Callum Smith, fresher. Joshua Haye. Joshua. Calm Brook. Well, when's the last time either of those guys fought? Gonna go with Brook because Carl will slow down and Brook will catch him. Crolla Flanagan. Going to Flanagan. Mitchell, Luke Campbell. Hugh Fury versus Dillian Whyte. Gonna go Hugh Fury. Will Groves and Haye work with McGregor. They're both flawed fighters. Why they've gone to McGregor? My only assumption, and it's an assumption, is that McGregor's rates are low in comparison to other fighters. Plus, he's connected to Barry McGregor, Cyclone Promotions, possibly the fact that maybe Haye could fight in Belfast in the future, bring some money in that way, or they've got TV deals. That's probably it. I don't know. Robbie Reynolds says Fury versus Whyte would be a proper ding dong. No, I don't think so. I think that Fury will actually I think Fury is far more technically better boxer than Joshua, and a better boxer than Whyte. I think boxing skills takes away that street fighting element, and I don't think it'd be a great. I don't think it'd be a great fight. I think the talk would be great. I don't think it'd be a great fight. Who wins? Showtime Porter versus Keith one-time Thurman. I made a prediction about this already. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I would go with Sean Porter. Now, I like Keith Thurman, but Keith Thurman, to me, as a fighter, isn't getting any better. If you look at his fights, he's doing the same thing all the time. I don't think Keith Thurman's getting any better. And that Collazo fight, where he got hit with a body shot or the kidney shot, that round where Collazo basically had the best round of the fight and hurts Keith. Keith was very uncomfortable when Collazo was closing the range on him. Keith has always been uncomfortable when fighters close the range on him. You look at the Guerrero fight, close the range, you start closing Keith down, doesn't like it. Keith likes fighting at distance. He likes fighting at distance. He likes winging big bombs away at you. He hasn't got the greatest jab. He's got a good jab, but he doesn't like, and I suspect Porter, if Porter can get Keith backing up on the ropes, then that takes Keith's power away from him. For me, I look for Porter to win this fight. So I would go with Porter. I've said it before. I'll go with Porter. When I spoke to Keith a while back, talking to Keith Thurman, every time I put the Porter fight to him, he said to me, "Listen, Porter and I are family, right? Our families, we go and have barbecues together. We're close. We're tight. We're boxing amateurs for nothing. So it's not about fearing one another. But if we're going to fight, we're going to fight for some serious money, and there needs to be some unification. I need to have a world championship, and he needs to have a world championship. That's the only way that fight's going to happen." Okay, so now we're in 2015. The fight hasn't happened, despite it being talked about over and over again. 2016 is rumored to happen. So unless the agenda has changed in the Porter camp or the Thurman camp, and they've said, you know what, we have to put our families aside and fight. I don't know. It's like the Andre Dirrell, Andre Ward thing. Those two guys were meant to fight. They didn't fight. What did Andre Dirrell do? He pulled out the Super Six. So he didn't fight Andre Ward, remember? So I don't know. Something has to change. Ben Lowe says Sports Personality of the Year was a joke. The Davis Cup is the tennis equivalent of winning prize fight. Well, I said to Peter Fury, look, as far as I'm concerned, Tyson should have won it. Tyson's accomplishments and achievements 2015 far more than Andy Murray's, but he said we've got to give Andy Murray all the credit in the world. Marky B says I can't back against Thurman. It's hard to. Okay, maybe it's hard to back against him, but I'm going with Porter in this one. Chisora versus Whyte. Yeah, that is a proper roadman fight. Chisora Whyte is a good fight. That's a roadman fight. That is a proper roadman fight. That's it. I would love to see that fight. That's a fight I'd love to see for 2016. I'd faster watch Chisora Whyte than Chisora Helenius too. Chisora versus Helenius. I think Helenius is the favorite for this one for me in the rematch. The fresher fighter, the guy that hasn't been KO'd. So I'd go with Helenius personally. Yeah. One fight I have no desire, I have no real interest in is Jean Pascal versus Kovalev 2. Why? Why? I don't understand. Why do we have to see this fight? Kovalev versus I just don't understand why. Pascal got a whoop in the first fight. I don't care what trainer he has, he's getting knocked out again. Simple. Pascal does not beat Kovalev. The fight I would like to see in 2016 is Kovalev versus Stevenson. I think that'd be a great fight. Andre Ward, what are you doing with your career? I mean, like, this guy was, how could the great have fallen so low? 5 years ago, I think, Andre Ward was considered one of the best after Floyd Mayweather, pound for pound fighter after the Super Six. after fighting all those quality fighters, then the whole thing with obviously that was Dan Duva, I think it is, whatever it was, that whole legal situation. Then you come back and then you sign with Rock Nation. What happened? What's Rock Nation doing for him? I don't know. And then the Paul Smith fight, which, you know, I was glad to see him back, but what's going on with Andre Ward? I mean, got to see him. He's now fighting light heavyweight. I spoke to Abel Sanchez. There was a rumor floating around, and it was that Andre Ward was forced to move up to light heavyweight so that Gennady Golovkin wouldn't have to face Andre Ward. They weren't prepared for that to happen. So Andre Ward was paid money to move up to light heavyweight. Don't know how true that was. I asked Abel Sanchez. Abel Sanchez says Gennady Golovkin doesn't have the sort of power to make Ward move up to light heavyweight. Well, I don't know what to think about that. 2016. Ward should fight Berbatov. Why should he fight him? Well, I don't know if he should fight him. I think Ward should fight Kovalev. Or he should fight Stephens. I'd like to see him fight one of those two guys. That'd be nice. Or even Ward go and fight, do you what? Go and fight Bramer. Go fight Bramer. Fight Bramer, beat Bramer. So you've got a version of the world title. And then go unify after that. Then you can say, look, I'll fight Stevenson or I'll go and fight Kovalev. That's what I would do if I was Ward. But I don't know. Berbatov, another good fighter. Would like to see him in with either Stevenson or Kovalev. I think that'd be a great fight, but whether that's going to happen or not, I don't know. What else we got to talk about? I don't think there's any much more to talk about, really. Have I missed anybody out? Have I not talked about anybody? Let me think. Oh, just on a closing note. I was delightfully Froch, yes. What's Ward done to get a top guy at 175? His last good fight was 4 years ago. That's my point. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. He needs to fight somebody. And I saw something like I tell you, Ward versus Cleverly would be a good fight. Enzo Macronelli, Tony Bellew, make that fight happen. David Haye, Demori. I think David Haye KOs Demori inside. If he's got anything left, he KOs Demori inside 2 rounds. And I think that fight may do more harm to Haye than good. Because if he destroys Demori in a round, the crowd may start booing. Boo! Boo! And he don't look good already because Demori at the press conference was sticking his head in David's face and all that stuff. See David KO it because Demori is easy to hit. I mean, he can punch, but I can see David Haye KOing Demori inside a round or 2. Yeah, so that's not good. Yeah, this is what I was going to say. I uploaded a video recently, and it led me on Google to go to a boxing site. And on the boxing forum, I noticed I was being talked about on the boxing forum. And these wise men were talking about me, and they were saying how I live in Grenada, and my wife's pretty tidy, and I don't get around much, and yeah, all these opinions of me. I was like, nice, very nice. I'm a cricket coach, and I'm a boxing coach, and I'm this, and I'm that. I was like, nice to know that people actually out there that watch, you know, and you know, some of the criticisms are made. Oh, your channel, you should cut the intros down, and you should do this, and you should do that, and you know, get all these advisors. They're all advisors, but I'm going to say something that my word of encouragement to those out there for 2016. Hello, Stuart Little. How are we doing? Happy New Year, mate. Happy New Year to you too. Are we? Oh well, yeah. Lucas Brown, Shagayev. Shagayev's got anything left? He beats Lucas Brown, but I'd like to see Lucas Brown beat Shagayev. Mr. Godwin, wishing you and yours very best 2016. My word of advice to those who are in the boxing community, my word of advice to those in life in general, there's always somebody who's got something to say about you, who is somebody who knows you better than you know yourself. I will say this: never take advice from someone who's never take constructive advice from someone who's never constructed anything. That's my little word of wisdom for you for 2016. There are so many people that talk about how you shouldn't construct this, or you shouldn't do this, or you shouldn't do that, or great advisors, but you look at them, you look at their subscriptions, they've got 5 subscribers, they've never done a video, they've never done an interview, you know, but they're the wise bunch. So for 2016, tell you what, in terms of interviews, in terms of features, being in Ireland, you know, I want to do a lot more Irish coverage in 2016 where I can. I certainly feel the value of building good relationships with, you know, various people such as James Ellie Bashir, Abel Sanchez, Tommy Brooks, Howell the Shadow Knight, Peter Fury, Tyson Fury, Team Fury. I think building good relationships always helps in terms of trying to get that exclusive or getting that interview and getting that in depth. So I think that you know, nurturing that relationship over time has been good. Have been disappointed, and just to make it quite clear, have been disappointed in certain relationships in 2015 where certain fighters seem liked, and you know, you've started with them in the beginning of a few years, and then they see a bit of light, they see lights, camera, action. Suddenly you go to the back of the queue and you've got to talk to their agent. The same interview you got with them before, now you got to talk to the agent. I haven't taken it as personal. I'm taking it personally. I think it's just the way the business goes. So, but I don't. I would say that it's not for me to judge, but it certainly does change my view of my perspective for 2016. So people say, well, why haven't you interviewed this person? Why haven't you interviewed that person? Well, it has to be said that you know, the person that I thought I was interviewing isn't exactly who the person is after that, you know. So you still try and do those interviews, but it makes things difficult. And I don't know, for me, it's probably not a pathway I'm going to go in 2016. What I'm probably going to do for 2016, if a direction for 2016 is, I want to go back in time in 2016 if I can. I want to interview older fighters. I want to interview more trainers. I want to talk to more promoters, talk to more managers. And I want to build better relationships stateside. I definitely want to do more stuff in America in 2016. I think that was something that side. Build brand BaylorIC worldwide. Obviously, the TV station itself to be up and running again for 2016. I think it became very boxing top heavy, but I want to do more features and other things. So that's something I want to work on for 2016. Producing maybe better content, maybe less quantity, more quality, and maybe some new features in 2016. I think that's where I want to be. Still don't see myself attending many press conferences in 2016. You know, I think thing of press conferences is you've got a whole lot of people there, and you know, you don't really get the quality of time with the individual or the manager or the promoter. So that's something I probably stand by for 2016. Probably spending more time, maybe visiting gyms more. That's something I'd like to do, getting around, visiting gyms. Yeah, shout out to people like Eddie Chambers, wishing him all the best for 2016. Dave Allen, all the best for 2016. Bermain Stavern, that he comes back in 2016. Bright Jennings can make a comeback in 2016. It was great to talk to female boxers in 2016 again. Ava Knight, Heather Hardy, Chantel Cameron, shout out to her. She's had a fantastic year. All the best for her in 2016 for Rio. Let's think who else. Heather Hardy was great. 2016, who knows? You know, I've been approached to talk about bare knuckle boxing. The UFC, I have to say, UFC MMA, I have been absolutely dazzled by the fights with Conor McGregor and the hype behind that fight. The way they promoted that was so well. Really enjoyed that. The best fight and the best. Really appreciated that UFC and the hype around it. I was really enthralled by it. I've got to say, Holly Holm and Ronda Rousey, that fight was really was me dipping my toes into UFC. And since then, I've downloaded the app on my phone, really getting into it. Like to interview more UFC fights in 2016. There's lots of UFC going here in Dublin, so definitely get into that a bit more in 2016. Really enjoyed it. I know people say that it's barbaric and all the rest of it, but I tell you, I was very, very much entertained. I thought the hype was amazing, the way they presented and packaged UFC. I have to say, the way the UFC have packaged is better than boxing. I'm sorry, I have to say it. And I think the boxing world could learn a little bit from the UFC. And Conor McGregor, what a man! What a man! What a man! I think Tyson Fury is the boxing version of Conor McGregor, and I wish them both the best for 2016. Holly Holm is funny. Boxer shows. I tell you something. If boxers should go out in 2016 and try and enter the UFC, because boxing skill proves that the UFC fighters haven't got a touch on boxing skill. And as long as they've got the ground game going, if they can keep them off the jab and box, that is going to be you know, you've seen what happens when a boxer meets a UFC fighter. If they got stand-up game, you saw what happened to Ronda Rousey. So I think we'll see more boxing in 2016. What I do want to see in 2016, I want to see a Royal Rumble in 2016 in boxing. You're saying, what do you mean by a Royal Rumble? I would like to see like a round robin, like Box Nation's best fighter, PBC's best fighter, Top Rank's best fighter, Matchroom's best fighter, Sauerland's best fighter, like the top promoting companies, their best fighters brought together like a royal, like a Super 6 or Super 8 or Super 12. That'd be amazing. That'd be great. I'd like to see the big ding dong between Box Nation and Matchroom. I think that'd be amazing. Their fighters come together. Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn, sit down and let's see you talking. Those two guys around the table, I'd love to hear those two talk. And maybe Mick Hennessy and Dennis Hobson. Those four guys around the table, sit down and talk. That's what I'd like to see for 2016. But I would like to see Box Nation versus Matchroom. That's what I would love to see for 2016. Showtime versus HBO. That's what I really want to see in 2016. That would really be exciting for 2016. So to close, again, wishing you all the very best for 2016. Been on a little longer than I should have been. All the best to you all, whether you be on Twitter world, Facebook, Instagram, Periscope. Thank you all so much. Thank you all for your support. And thanks. Thank you so much. That's it. I think that's it. Have a good one.